Aloha cupcakes. This is going to be another video about doing freehand design because, well, it's something I've been working on for a while, and it's something that I think had I started doing this sooner in pinstriping, it might have helped me out quite a bit. Now, a lot of us start off with a center line. That's easy. It's the grids that we create after the fact that may actually hinder what you're doing. So take this secondary line that I'm putting down right now. What I'm doing is I'm just accenting the existing two lines. Now, if you're using a grid, a lot of times what you're going to have a tendency to do is to follow the grid. And most grids are staggered at a 1-inch increment. Well, that's a 1/4 of an inch. So what happens with that is that you have a design that is wide spaced and distanced out in a format that might not be quite the design that you're looking for, especially when you're dealing with something that is long and vertical, such as this paddle. And yes, it's one of those paddles. Or as several of my friends have decided, they are cake tenderizers. But the thing is, this is a design that needs to be vertical, and it needs to have a central type of shape to it. And that's not something that I am necessarily going to get out of a grid. However, if I just kind of eyeball it, and I really just focus in on the notion of duplicating my work on each side and doing so with each line. So for every line that I do on the other side, or on one side, I will duplicate that exact line on the opposite side. And yes, I pay way too much attention to those little tiny corners, especially for them to be as inaccurate as sometimes they get. Yeah, call it a compulsive disorder, it's fine. I don't care. I will waste 10 or 20 minutes correcting the little things. But my point is, it's important to work with the design in a way that flows with the piece that you're working on. And a grid doesn't always do that. In fact, grids very seldom do that. They're great for practice, and they're wonderful for when you are not fully capable of doing this. However, get a piece of junk. Get these paddles. I got these paddles for $10 over at Michael's, which is a 1/4 of what I spent when I was making these in my shop, by the way. Yay, Michael's. But these were only $10. And all I did was rattle can it. I threw a couple of pink stripes on this one because I could. And did I need to outline those pink stripes with ivory? No, not at all. But I did. Whatever. They also throw off your design, by the way, because they're kind of crooked and not perfect. But practice doing this. I got a weird feeling that later on in life, you're going to come across a project where a grid's not going to work. And yes, center lines are still important. And yes, it's important if you're going to do a design on two different things. But this freehand design thing has changed the way that I do designs altogether. Not just in the composition themselves, but in the idea of me exploring other shapes and designs within it. And I think that is what separates each of us from each other. If I'm using a grid all the time and I'm going from point to point, and let's say that I adhere to, say, to 3 to 6 inches per stripe, which I never do, but we'll just say that that's the math we're using. And everyone else is doing the exact same thing. It is mathematically improbable for us to come up with different designs, to create something brand new out of that. And that, I think, stifles the creativity in pinstripers. And I think for a lot of stripers who I've known over the years, that lack of creativity is why they quit. And I don't know that I like or dislike competition. I don't know that I've ever viewed anyone that way. But I will tell you that the events where there's 100 pinstripers are vastly more fun compared to the ones where there's 2. So I would prefer it if you don't quit. And the best way for you to not quit is to have some degree of creativity and thought to what you're doing and to enjoy what you're doing. So this is just me trying to help. I mean, it might not. You're probably sitting there laughing. I will never do that. I will use a grid for the rest of my life. And that's fine, I guess. Or there's some people who only do the one thing over and over and over again, and you love the repetition. Well, I'm not that guy, so don't do that. I mean, do it if that's what makes you happy, I guess. Whatever. Stay moist, my friends.